So if you're playing a rogue and you don't want to play melee right now, the most popular options are penetrating shot and rapid fire. But what about a build that puts both of them together? Using penetrating shot for AoE clear and rapid fire for melting bosses. Using poison to triple our damage and still capitalizing on that vulnerability from puncture. In this video, I'm going to level by level walk you through putting that build together. Show you how to get overpowered early, where to go, when to go there. And the only thing I ask is if you have as much fun with it as I do, that you smash the like button, and if you want to see more of this content, then go ahead and subscribe. Now without wasting any time, let's dive right on into leveling. Now the very first thing you're going to do when you reach Kyovashad is start making your way southwest to the Lost Archives dungeon. This is only a level 1 dungeon and it unlocks the aspect of the Protector, and this will give you a barrier every time that you start a fight with elites, and this is especially helpful on hardcore, and you'll get a couple levels as you get through there. At level 2 we're going to put a point into Puncture. While Puncture uses your dual wield melee weapons, it can actually be used from a range, which is very convenient, and it just throws out a couple of blades, and these blades slow enemies. At level 3 you're going to take Enhanced Puncture, and this is going to give you 2 energy anytime that Puncture damages a crowd controlled enemy. At level 4 you're going to put a point into Twisting Blades. So we're going to actually level up with Twisting Blades because it's the strongest skill early on. We're going to respec to range later, and I'll cover that respec in depth. With the Twisting Blade skill, you basically stick your 2 melee weapons into an enemy, and then after 1.5 seconds, they'll return to you, damaging everything in the path between you. This is probably the strongest early skill in the game, and we're going to grab an aspect to make it even more powerful and give it more utility. At level 5, we're going to grab Enhanced Twisting Blades, and this just makes Twisting Blades deal 30% increased damage when returning to you. At level 6, we're going to put a point into Fundamental Puncture, and with this we can start using Puncture to apply vulnerability. At level 7, put a point into Advanced Twisting Blades. This is actually a really helpful upgrade because when the blades return to you, all of your cooldowns are reduced by 0.1 second per enemy that they pass through. Now once you reach level 7, you're going to follow this path to a dungeon called the Broken Bulwark. You can come here earlier, but keep in mind the enemies are going to be level 7. Completing this dungeon is going to give you the Ghost Walker aspect, and this is just going to add more movement speed to the build, giving you 10% more movement speed after using Shadow Step. At level 8, we're going to take Dash. In my opinion, this is the best mobility skill in the game. Not only can you reposition yourself quickly on the battlefield, but you get 2 charges, and the skill does damage to all enemies that you pass through. At level 9, put a point into Shadow Step. As discussed, this gives you Unstoppable and allows you to teleport behind an enemy and backstab them. It's great for repositioning and then later for applying stun. As a bonus, you also get 50% increased movement speed for 2 seconds after using it. The points from levels 10, 11, and 12 are going to go into Twisting Blades, and each point just increases the damage of Twisting Blades, and by this point you should definitely notice the power of Twisting Blades in this build. Also feel free that you can go into this next dungeon that we're about to talk about at any point between 10 and 12 if you feel that you're strong enough. It's just a level 12 dungeon, that's why I placed it there in the guide, but if you can get there earlier like level 10, you absolutely should. It's going to improve the damage of your Twisting Blades and the quality of life by a ton. And that dungeon is called Jalal's Vigil. You could just follow this path on the map to get there. And this is the most important early game dungeon because it's going to unlock the Blade Dancers aspect. And with this aspect, your Twisting Blades are going to orbit around you after they return to you. So tons of extra damage and AoE. At level 13, you're going to put a point into Poison Trap. You can have up to 4 of these out at once, and they're really strong early game. They help provide even more AoE and pretty significant damage to help you with clearing. You can also drop them under bosses to help add a ton of DPS to the build. At level 14, take Enhanced Poison Trap. This is really useful because it's going to knock down all enemies now when Poison Trap triggers. So now you can Shadow Step onto an elite surrounded by enemies, drop a Poison Trap, knock them all down, and Twisting Blades them in that orbit before they get up. At level 15, put a point into Dark Shroud. Now using this skill is going to surround you with 5 little protective shadows. Each one of them is going to give you 8% damage reduction, and 1 is going to be removed every time you take damage. Now there's 4 level 15 dungeons we're going to go hit in this order. The first is the Howling Warren. This is for after we respec to Marksman, and it'll make our Marksman skills have a 10% chance to create an arrow storm on top of enemies. Then the Underroot is going to give us the aspect of the Expectant, and this causes our basic skills to increase the damage of our core skills. Early on that's Twisting Blades, later it's Rapid Fire and Penetrating Shot. Then we're going to hit the Dark Ravine for the aspect of Might. And this is really nice, especially on hardcore. This makes our basic skills give us 20% damage reduction. And then from here, we're going to head south and finish at the Buried Halls. And this is going to give us the rapid aspect, giving us more attack speed with our basic skills. Super helpful tip here, be sure to grab any waypoints to come back this area later. Now at level 15, don't forget to take the rogue specific quest called True Potential. We're going to use Inner Sight to trigger Momentary Infinite Resource. At level 16, we're going to grab Enhanced Dark Shroud. And this just gives us a 10% chance for our Dark Shroud shadows to not be consumed. At level 17, we're going to take Subverting Dark Shroud. And this is probably the main reason for taking Dark Shroud while leveling. Now, every Dark Shroud shadow gives you 4% increased movement speed. So as long as you have all 5 shadows up, you have 20% increased movement speed all the time. At level 18, we're going to max out Twisting Blades. And this is, again, for the obvious reason of just getting more damage with our main damage skill. Now at level 19, 20, 21, and 22, we're going to put all 4 points into Poison Trap. I just feel like early on, before having tons of crit and all that stuff, that this would be the next best choice for adding damage to your build. Especially in early game, Poison Trap just feels very, very strong. Now again, come here as early as you want, but there's 2 level 20 dungeons that we want to hit. The first is called Old Stones for the Edge Masters aspect, and this just gives us increased damage based off of our primary resource. After hitting Old Stones, we're going to head southwest to the Halls of the Damned. And again, be sure to grab some waypoints on the way there. And completing this dungeon is going to unlock the aspect of Disobedience. And this is solid because it just increases our armor every time we deal damage. At level 23, 24, and 25, we're going to put 3 points into Exploit. And this will give us 18% increased damage to both healthy and injured enemies. This just fits into this build really well with great opening damage, and then helping clear up any trash that's almost dead. At level 26, put a point into Adrenaline Rush. This just gives you 5% increased energy regeneration while you're moving. And then level 27, 28, and 29, we're putting all 3 points into Haste. And especially while leveling, Haste is very, very strong. This gives us 15% increased move speed while at or above 50% maximum energy. So basically while we're traveling pack to pack, we get more move speed, which is what we want. And while below 50% energy, we get 15% increased attack speed to help get that energy back up to use our skills. At level 30, take Enhanced Shadow Step. And this just gives you increased critical strike chance against enemies that you use Shadow Step against. And then at level 31, we're going to take Methodical Shadow Step. And this is awesome because now whenever you attack an enemy with Shadow Step, it stuns them for 2 seconds. So if you see an elite surrounded by enemies, you can Shadow Step on them, stun them, throw Poison Trap, knock everything down including them, and then start your Twisting Blades. And normally everything will be dead including the elite before they can even stand up. At level 32, we're going to take Subverting Poison Trap. And this just causes you to do 10% increased poison damage to enemies standing inside the Poison Trap. At level 33, 34, and 35, we're going to put 3 points into Weapon Mastery. And this is great for both ranged and melee. For our Twisting Blades build that you're using right now, you'll get 15% increased damage to healthy enemies if you're using daggers, and just a flat 9% increased damage if you're using swords. At level 36, we're taking Momentum, and this just gives us more movement speed, energy regeneration, and damage reduction. Now at this point, you have a choice to make. You can either continue pushing forward with the melee build that you're using currently. I've attached a level 50 skill tree here, and I'll have a link to that level 50 skill tree in the description below. You'll be respecking a few points and turning it more into a Twisting Blades and Trap hybrid build. Shadow stepping in to stun the elite, throwing down a Poison Trap to knock everything down, and then using Death Trap to pull everything together and melting it with your Twisting Blades. This is a very fun build as well, so you can feel free to use this if you want to. Even after the nerf, this build is still definitely an S tier build. And if you've been leveling with it, it's going to be a playstyle that you obviously already know. But for me personally, the range build is more fun. And there's some situations like bosses that it just feels a lot stronger. There's situations you can keep elites permanently knocked down like you're seeing on your screen. You do a ton of damage to single target like world bosses and dungeon bosses. And to me, it's just a lot of fun to throw a penetrating shot out and destroy an entire pack. Or using poison imbued rapid fire to absolutely melt dungeon bosses. You can see the range level 36 respec build on the left. I'll put a link to this respec in the description below as well, but I'm going to go over it in extreme detail right now. So even with range, we're going to stick with fundamental puncture as our basic skill to apply vulnerability. Right away we have penetrating shot maxed out. It's our main damage dealer for general clearing and large packs. And the upgrade that we chose was improved penetrating shot for extra 20% critical strike chance after clearing big packs. We also have rapid fire maxed right away. This is going to be our single target melt skill, and improved rapid fire is going to let us spam it against dungeon bosses and single targets, thanks to puncture. We're still using dash as it's still the best skill to reposition ourselves on the battlefield and avoid big hits. We're going to have exploit maxed right away for that 18% increased damage to healthy and injured enemies. We're going to be using concealment as well. It gives you 30% increased movement speed and grants you stealth for 4 seconds. And with enhanced concealment, you're going to gain 40 energy when you enter concealment. And then a really cool synergy is countering concealment, which makes the skill you use to break concealment a guaranteed crit. Poison imbuement is very strong. Using it will make your next two imbuable skills basically do double damage. Then with blended poison imbuement, critical strikes deal 75% increased poisoning damage. Deadly Venom is going to give us 3% more poisoning damage. And then 3 points into debilitating toxins will make poison enemies deal 15% less damage to us. We still have that 1 point into Adrenaline Rush for the 5% increased energy regeneration while moving. On the respec, we're starting off with 2 points into haste, so now we start with 10% increased movement speed and attack speed. And now we're using precision, and this is just going to give us a lot of extra critical strike damage. So we're also switching our specialization to combo points. Now you get a point every time you attack with puncture up to 3 points. And with 3 points, you get 39% extra damage with 6 arrows fired on rapid fire, and 90% more damage with a 30% knockdown chance on penetrating shot. So now to maximize your damage, it's 3 basic attacks followed up by rapid fire or penetrating shot. Now we have 3 dungeons we want to go hit immediately after respecking, and they're all level 35 dungeons. The first one is called Inferno. This will unlock the Vengeful aspect, and basically on lucky hit, making enemies vulnerable will increase your crit chance up to 9%. Then we're going to head over to the Shift to Ruins and unlock the Windstalker aspect, and this just adds even more move speed to the build. But the third and final dungeon is the most important, and it's the reason that we're respecking at this point. And this dungeon is called the Bastion of Faith. It unlocks the Trick Shot aspect, and this is what gives penetrating shot the 2 additional arrows splitting off either side, and basically what makes penetrating shot such a great AoE skill. This is why we leveled with twisting blades up to this point, because this kind of gatekeeps the real power of the build. At level 37, 38, and 39, we're going to put 3 points into Innervation, and this just helps with resource management by giving us up to a 20% chance to gain 8 energy with a lucky hit. At level 40, 41, 42, and 43, we're going to put 4 points into Poison Imbuement. We want to max out Poison Imbuement because it really gives us a ton of extra damage in the build. At rank 5, you go from dealing 100% of your skill's damage as extra poison damage to 140%. So it's just a huge DPS increase whether you're using it on rapid fire or on penetrating shot. Especially if you're proccing that extra poison damage on crit and you're utilizing that guaranteed critical coming out of stealth. At level 44, 45, and 46, we're going to be putting 3 points into Stutter Step, and we're using this just purely for movement speed. We now get 15% more movement speed after critically striking an enemy. Level 47, 48, and 49, we're putting 3 points into Precision Imbuement, and now our Poison Imbuement gives us 9% increased critical strike chance, which actually translates to a lot of DPS if you do the math. Now our first, second, and third renown points are going to go into Alchemical Advantage. Attack speed's really important to this build, I'll get to that in a minute. And with this, you gain 3% increased attack speed for every enemy you've poisoned up to 15%. Now renown points 4 and 5 we're going to put into Deadly Venom, just to push this skill up from 3% to 9% increased poisoning damage. Since this build's putting out so much poisoning damage, we really want to capitalize on how much we're doing. Renown points 6, 7, and 8 are all going to go into Weapon Mastery. Now this will give you 12% increased damage to vulnerable enemies if you're using a bow. I recommend using a crossbow because then you'll get 15% increased critical strike damage. And coming out of stealth, you're always going to crit, and then we have crit everywhere in the build, so you should be critting all the time, even if you're not doing it from stealth. For our 9th renown point, we're going to put a point into Haste to max that out. And that gets us back to that favorable situational increase in movement speed by 15% and attack speed by 15% depending on your resource. And our final point is going to go into Impetus. After moving 15 meters, your next attack is going to do 7% increased damage. Because this ranged rogue is so highly mobile, I feel that this is where we'll get the single most damage from 1 point in the build. If you're still here, you obviously enjoyed the guide, do me a huge favor and smash the like button. I'd love some comments on your feedback, what you guys would do different in the build or other builds that you guys are doing with the rogues. And be sure to subscribe if you want to see more of our builds or guides. Thanks for watching.